DeleteLawZ main channel deleted. Did DeCastro P Spam his own channel? Despite evidence otherwise, growing movement claims YouTuber pulled off attacks on himself to end his channel's death spiral. Who do you believe? Hendry found guilty of 3 of 4 charges in Vermillion County, Indiana. Will you be contributing to his appeal funding? Kate Peter discusses Turtleboy's recent woes as the Free Karen Reed movement fractures. Will a surprise 200-person fundraiser heal the deep wounds in the movement? And will Turtleboy file more charges against her for violating his protective order? All this and a look at the GoFundMe market in this edition of Auditing Insanity. Good morning, and welcome to another edition of the Auditing Insanity Newscast brought to you by ReallyCoolNews. I'm Johnny Jones, and I'll be your host this morning for a combined newscast covering Sunday, November 24th and Monday, November 25th, 2024. We live in a very strange world as evidence that DeleteLawZ DeCastro had been hacked by an outside group Friday night into Saturday morning has somehow morphed into the widespread belief that DeCastro carried out the attacks on himself in order to further promote his latest move to Twitter/X. When YouTube finally caught up with the reports about the channel and nuked it, he simply gave up, didn't fight, and sheepishly directed people to DeleteLawZ clips. Something doesn't feel right here. Our news coverage on this weird fact goes further into it, and his weird reaction to actually losing his main channel. But as we point out in the story, how bad is DeCastro's reputation within the First Amendment auditing community when he seems to be legitimately hacked, and no one believes him? With that, let's jump into Sunday's stories before we tell that story as we ask you to focus on.
DeCastro claims victory in post-hack livestream. There was a sense of at least insane victory in the air Saturday night as Jose Chili DeCastro returned to live streaming following a series of P-bombs Friday night into Saturday morning that left the YouTuber in a sympathetic position. DeCastro's subscription numbers, which had been stuck at 623,000 for the past 2 months, ballooned overnight, jumping to the 625,000 mark and apparently ending whatever hold had been in place for his subscribers. His Saturday night stream focused on moving his Team DeleteLawZ viewers over to Twitter/X, and they responded in droves as his YouTube stream peaked at 125 live viewers, while his Twitter/X account ballooned to 453 views during the broadcast. Following the broadcast, his Twitter/X numbers rose to 590 total views and 3,058 total views on his main YouTube channel. While the gains made during the live for views on Twitter were good for the live streamer, those gains in viewership were not proportional to the losses in YouTube viewership. DeCastro's finances were actually hurt as he only did $139 in super chats on YouTube. Surviving a direct attack by multiple P-bombings was great for both DeCastro's attitude and his core Team DeleteLawZ, but fear of another P-bomb may have scared off his fans from contributing to the expected and much-needed influx of funding based on sympathy views. As with everything DeCastro touches this day, despite his up-day in attitude, financially, he effectively failed to plan for or capitalize on his fans' goodwill. He refused to open a new GoFundMe or reopen an old one for that matter. In the end, he essentially robbed himself of any new super chat funding by insisting his fans move to Twitter/X, where it is nearly impossible to send him money, and his YouTube revenue from what should have been his biggest show since his get-out-of-jail show failed to materialize. By Saturday evening, there was also a growing belief inside the community that DeCastro staged the attacks himself in order to jumpstart his Twitter/X campaign. While we have seen no evidence of this ourselves, and there is more than enough evidence to point to an outside individual or group, DeCastro is desperate for funding at this point. Fans pointed out that all of the P-bombings went on for much longer than expected before DeCastro himself ended the broadcasts. The streams are marked as deleted within Playboard's monitoring system and removed by user on YouTube. YouTube itself has also apparently refused to get involved, as DeCastro's channel remains active while other channels that had suffered P-bombs were suspended immediately by the platform. Again, add the fact that DeCastro is desperate to leave YouTube and he needs something, anything, to bring his numbers on Twitter/X up to the hundreds of thousands of viewers required to make any sort of money off of that platform, and the inside job theory can really appeal to people. Despite the fact that there is clear evidence that it was an outside individual or group that carried out the attacks. Let that sink in. DeCastro's reputation is so bad within both sides of the First Amendment auditing community, and he is so financially desperate right now that most people are rejecting the clear facts pointing to an outside hit on his channel to accuse DeCastro of staging the attacks on himself. DeCastro seemed overjoyed as he went live Saturday night. He proclaimed that he was renewed due to the attack and that they took their best shot to take him down and did not succeed before promptly attempting to self-sabotage his efforts and move his viewership over to Twitter/X. The 4-hour broadcast was more boring than anything else, with his typical outraged phone call over an issue several years in the past and 2-for-1 trifold sales dominating the broadcast. While fans reacted to the upbeat DeCastro, he was still slurring his words at the start of the broadcast and his pacing was off for the night. He literally failed to add anything new to his program to capitalize on the sympathetic viewership, and all in all, turned out an overly dull reaction to something that could have seen him mount his comeback. There were no further attacks on DeCastro's channel as of 4:03 a.m. Eastern Time on Sunday morning.
GoFundMe report November 24, 2024. In probably the best day for the market since September, we almost had an actual top 5 for Saturday, as 4 out of the 29 campaigns we follow had gains, with 3 of those gains passing the $50 mark. Saturday was dominated by Craig Hendry's To Support Craig's Work fund following the jailed YouTuber, putting out an evening appeal to his followers in order to help fund his challenge of his Friday conviction of felony stalking in Vermillion County, Indiana. The campaign's one-day take is more than Hendry made over the last 3 months combined, and currently puts him in the lead on the market monthly leaderboard, with the fund sitting at $699 for the month. Our own return to near daily newscasts brought our ongoing expenses fund a second place finish to the day, with a $75 take, followed by Long Island Audit's Support the Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption Fund at a $50 take, with Liberty Trolls Support the Fight for Our Constitutional Rights Fund coming in fourth with a $10 take. As good as these numbers are for a market that has been absolutely dead for the past few months, one wonders what the numbers would have looked like if Jose "Chili" DeCastro had stayed in the market. DeCastro famously shut down all of his GoFundMe efforts in September for unknown reasons, leaving his fans with limited outlets to donate to DeCastro other than his questionable paid applications. With the wave of sympathy and outpouring of love he received from his fans Saturday night, one has to speculate on the amount of money he robbed himself of by not taking advantage of that wave and reopening one of his many GoFundMe accounts at least for the weekend. DeCastro is literally bleeding cash at this point, just recently having to refuse to help support Craig Hendry at his trial in Indiana, as he says he couldn't afford airfare. Just one night of a GoFundMe may not have turned things around, but DeCastro could have easily tripled Hendry's take, and it's an unforced error on DeCastro's part. He desperately needs any funds he can get right now, if the rumors are true, and it's staggering to see him blow the opportunity to turn such good faith from his fans into a turnaround for his company. Speaking of good faith and turnarounds, after our own blunder last week, we need your help. This newscast is funded by your donations along with what we make from our YouTube channel per month. While we did achieve full monetization on YouTube, we still need help to get through monthly expenses and keeping the lights on to bring you the paper and the newscast each day. If you can afford it, please consider donating to the GoFundMe run by this very channel. All donations literally go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing news stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. If you can't afford to contribute, please watch the advertisements on our videos and like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can help by doing next to nothing, and we thank you in advance for pitching in. Craig Hendry found guilty in felony stalking case. Activist and political prisoner Craig Hendry reported in a jailhouse address to his followers Saturday night that he had been convicted of felony stalking and 2 of 3 misdemeanor counts of harassment in Vermillion County, Indiana. Hendry's case was an unusual one from the start, as essentially Hendry was charged with harassment and stalking based on his actions through his fans. Evidence was presented, according to Hendry, that hinged on his release of the phone numbers and contact info of the victims, and his fans calling and writing the victims on his behalf. The so-called political prisoner had previously assured his fans that if he got a jury trial, it would be fair and that he could present his innocence to the public, and the jury would have no choice but to find him innocent. He quickly redacted those statements in his post-conviction statement. In Hendry's version of the jury trial, prosecutors were allowed to present countless amounts of evidence that his fans left messages, and his fans contacted the victims while showing no evidence at all that he actually contacted the victims in the case. Again, asserting that he was innocent, despite the conviction of 3 of the 4 counts that went before the jury, Hendry announced that his sentencing was on December 17, 2024, and after that he could appeal the verdict. Hendry announced that he would need to put up $60 an hour to have the trial transcribed before filing his appeal and would need his to finance his appeal going forward. He then gave out his cash applications and his GoFundMe and pleaded for his fans for support. Overnight, Hendry pulled in $240, which is a great take for Hendry, but nowhere near the thousands he claims he needs for both the transcription services and to finance his appeal. Hendry's brother Keith made a statement in the second half of the video. Keith said that the government was corrupt and essentially railroaded the jury into a victory for the prosecution. He called the jury a joke and claimed that 1 juror was asleep during part of the trial. Keith's complaints continued, angrily demanding to know why one of his brother's supporters was banned from wearing a Hendry Media Network hoodie, while police were allowed to wear their uniforms in court. The younger Hendry also made his displeasure known about the judge, instructing him not to demonstrate his emotions in favor of his brother or making outbursts in the courtroom during the trial. He finished by calling the judge corrupt and stating that the government was evil. Craig Hendry is expected to be transferred from Vermillion County to Sullivan County, Indiana, in the near future to face more felony charges in that county. His estimate for his pending sentencing is anywhere from 3 months to several years in jail. Kate Peter live streams about Karen Reed turmoil. Masshole Mafia leader Kate Peter went live with co-host Boomer and Kevin of the Yellow Cottage Tales YouTube channel Friday night to discuss continuing developments in the apparent dissolution of the once unified Free Karen Reed movement. The live stream was described as a violation of the protection order that Aiden Turtleboy Kearney has against Peter. While he took no actions to stop the broadcast may be used against Peter in upcoming hearings to back Kearney's claims. Peter herself downplayed Kearney's need for a protection order against her, as he's openly sought her out in public in recent months. She described incidents where Kearney himself has taken photographs of her out at restaurants and having a beer, or pictures of her car and house. The group on Peter's live stream found it silly that Kearney is allowed to seek out Peter and act aggressively towards Peter, when, according to the protective order, Kearney lives in fear of Peter, as she once speculated on a live stream who would win a fight between them. Kearney, along with reporter Grant Smith Ellis, have been reporting that Peter is in a conspiracy to act against accused murderer Karen Reed, and that Peter somehow controls the district attorney and police force involved in investigating Karen Reed for the murder of John O'Keefe in January of 2022. Peter's live stream featured the apparent split in the Free Karen Reed movement, as a number of prominent figures within the group have been leaking text messages and group chats with many of the leading figures involved in the movement. Among those revelations in the alleged messages include Kearney's apparent statements that Karen Reed told him what to say when he directly confronted witness Jen McCabe at her daughter's soccer game. There was also an implication that Karen Reed told him to run Jen McCabe's license plates in a case that resulted in charges against Kearney and a police dispatcher who ran the plates for Kearney. Kearney and Reed have had an on-again, off-again partnership over the past 2 years, with Reed distancing herself from Kearney at times due to charges made against him of witness intimidation on behalf of Red. Reed and Kearney were among 200 people gathered Saturday night in a secret fundraising dinner held featuring Karen Reed supporters in Massachusetts. Kearney released photos where he posed with Karen Reed and her father and declared that the movement was more united than ever. The dissolution of the Free Karen Reed movement and invitation of all of the major players, despite many being at war with each other, apparently was meant to be a show of unity on behalf of Reed's forces, even as news of further leaks dominate Twitter/X feeds from those who cover the movement. Karen Reed's first trial for the murder of John O'Keefe resulted in a hung jury earlier in the year. A second trial is pending for next year, with Reed challenging 2 of the 3 charges on double jeopardy grounds. We will continue to document the ongoing events in Massachusetts.
DeleteLawZ deleted, YouTube kills main channel. Fans of Jose Chili DeCastro were horrified Sunday night as his main DeleteLawZ channel was terminated by YouTube for violating the YouTube content guidelines. DeCastro's channel had suffered a hacking Friday night into Saturday morning, and explicit male-on-male pornography was displayed over 5 attacks. Online reports showed that whoever performed the attacks was using a trial version of the StreamYard software and apparently did not have access to DeCastro's 3 other YouTube channels. Fans immediately were suspicious as DeCastro let the pornography play for an extended period in the first 2 attacks before shutting down the broadcasts. That extended delay gave rise to an unfounded theory that DeCastro either hired someone to hack his channel or he pulled off the hack himself. While there is extensive evidence that DeCastro had nothing to do with the attacks, his reputation within his own community is so bad that the suspicion would not go away over the weekend. DeCastro's attempt to use the hacking as a rallying cry for all of his subscribers to move to his team DeleteLawZ.com also brought suspicion, as he didn't get angry over the hack, didn't react like he normally does, and ultimately planted more suspicion on himself through his strange reactions than anything. According to Playboard.com, while DeCastro was paid for his October earnings before the hack, he's losing roughly $2,298 this month's earnings in earned super chats alone. Factor in the loss of YouTube AdSense revenue and memberships, and DeCastro's monthly losses could add up to the $5,000 to $6,000 range. DeCastro's viewership levels had tanked in recent weeks as he attempted to move his subscribers over to other platforms. He had continually warned that he was preparing for YouTube to shut down his main channel and that his fans should be advised that the day was coming that they would need to move elsewhere. However, as fans moved to his newly created platforms, they refused to pay for the Chili DeCastro experience. His Patreon stands at 4 paying customers in 6 weeks, for example, and his First Amendment Auditor YouTube channel has not achieved basic YouTube monetization as of press time. DeleteLawZ Clips, American Patriot Forever, and DeCastro's First Amendment Auditor channels have not been impacted by the termination of DeCastro's main channel. Under YouTube guidelines, if the 3 channels shared the same AdSense account, they should have been terminated as well. DeCastro has vowed that he will not let evil win, and that fate has decided that his future lies in his constitutional law scholar board game. He also announced Sunday night that he was appealing the ban by YouTube. This is a developing news story. DeleteLawZ. What's next for Jose Maria DeCastro? Jose Maria Chili DeCastro went live on his DeleteLawZ Clips channel late Sunday night with a somber, almost too calm, reaction to the loss of his DeleteLawZ main channel, promising to rebuild and putting hope in the future. DeCastro refused to cry or to let evil win as he addressed his fans, with 434 total views of the broadcast on YouTube and 171 views on Twitter/X. He said it was all part of the game and that he was taking it as a sign from fate that he needs to step back from broadcasting and to focus on finishing his constitutional law scholar board game. The YouTuber promised that the board game, which combines a traditional board game with video and audio aids, will be out by Christmas, and that he believed that the game will be just as popular as Trivial Pursuit was in the 1980s. He explained that while he appealed YouTube's decision to delete his main channel, he will have to lay off his editors immediately as the loss of revenue from the channel puts his own future in doubt, let alone the futures of the people he employs. DeCastro warned those who allegedly hacked his old channel that they damaged him greatly, but they did not kill him. The loss of 625,000 subscribers on his main channel will hurt, but he still had 106,000 subscribers on his DeleteLawZ Clips channel and small but loyal following on his American Patriot Forever and First Amendment Auditor YouTube channels. As fans found their way to his broadcast, he urged them not to sign up for memberships on any of his channels but to sign up for his TeamDeleteLawZ.com website, where all of the revenue would go directly to him. The activist and internet personality said that he only had about 100 subscribers on the paid TeamDeleteLawZ.com site and that he felt he failed in turning the site into a social network. He promised he would be working to improve the site and was more motivated than ever to start sharing more videos about the creation of his board game to his paid subscribers. DeCastro, again slurring words here and there and acting like he was in slow motion at times, has been criticized for his reaction to both Friday's alleged hacking of his site and his reaction to the loss of his channel. For months since his release from jail, DeCastro has been telling his fans to prepare for the day that his main channel would go away. More recently, in a telling sign, he was attempting to move his followers over to various new locations in case his main channel was deleted. His fans refused to leave and his Patreon, TeamDeleteLawZ.com, Twitter/X and new First Amendment Auditor YouTube channel all failed to become the new homes for his fans over the past 6 weeks. There have also been persistent rumors since Friday night that DeCastro performed the porn spamming of his own channel himself, purposely tanking his channel in order to further the move to TeamDeleteLawZ.com. While there is more evidence to point to an actual hack than DeCastro destroying his own channel, the rumors persist based on DeCastro's lack of energy and effort in his reaction to the loss of his channels. DeCastro stated that has filed an appeal with YouTube. He claims he will know in a day or two if YouTube restores his main channel. He confirmed that he had been paid October's earnings on November 20th, before the hacking events happened. He made $95 in super chats off of the late-night broadcast. We will continue to provide updates as we get them.
DeleteLawZ leads Hendry to Sunday GoFundMe win. Before DeleteLawZ, Jose Chili DeCastro's main YouTube channel was shut down. His very last broadcast on the channel was a fundraiser for Craig Hendry's newly created Support Craig's Fight Against Injustice GoFundMe campaign, which is seeking money to appeal Hendry's recent convictions in Indiana. Hendry was convicted of felony stalking and 2 counts of misdemeanor harassment for essentially having his followers brigade in Indianatown's mayor's office. A jury of Hendry's peers found Craig to be responsible for the harassment city workers faced in the 2023 incident that to the charges. After the conviction, Hendry's girlfriend, Erica Brown, created a new GoFundMe devoted to the legal fees involved in the appeals process. The fund is currently seeking $15,000 towards Hendry's appeal, and DeCastro's efforts brought in $605 in donations for Sunday. Had DeCastro's channel not been later deleted Sunday night, we would have criticized DeCastro's lack of effort and strange timing of the broadcast as it conflicted with major NFL games scheduled for Sunday afternoon. DeCastro's demeanor was also a question, as simply put, this was among multiple recent broadcasts where DeCastro was slurring his words and observers complained that he appeared inebriated during the broadcast, robbing Hendry of DeCastro's best efforts towards achieving his goal of $15,000. The broadcast drew a maximum of 192 live viewers on DeCastro's main YouTube channel and 135 total views during DeCastro's live broadcast on Twitter/X. That number has increased to 459 views since the end of the broadcast. With such a small crowd, most of his viewers made their donations early, and the well quickly went dry for donations towards Hendry's fund. The $605 represented a paltry 4% of the funds needed to meet Hendry's goal, and with the loss of DeCastro's main channel, any hope of Hendry making the $15,000 goal is effectively lost. The $605 for the day gave the GoFundMe title to Hendry's fund, with Sean Paul, Long Island Audit, Reyes Support the Fight Against Tyranny and Corruption campaign coming in second for the day with a $50 take, and Hendry's original To Support Craig's Work campaign bringing in the rear with $5 in donations. Hendry's new campaign is now in third place for the monthly GoFundMe title, Behind Hendry's to support Craig's work campaign, and Long Island Audits support the fight against tyranny and corruption campaign. We will continue to monitor Hendry's attempts to fundraise for his appeal each day in these GoFundMe updates. We need your help. This newscast is funded by your donations along with what we make from our YouTube channel per month. While we did achieve full monetization on YouTube, we still need help to get through monthly expenses and keeping the lights on to bring you the paper and the newscast each day. If you can afford it, please consider donating to the GoFundMe run by this very channel. All donations literally go to keeping the lights on, eating, and writing news stories to feature here and on ReallyCoolSite.org. If you can't afford to contribute, please watch the advertisements on our videos and like, share, subscribe, and comment. You can help by doing next to nothing, and we thank you in advance for pitching in. And we're back. A couple of quick announcements for the next couple of weeks. Due to the Thanksgiving holiday and Pope Phil's work commitments, our Best/Worst Choices Theater will be moving from 3 p.m. Eastern every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to 8 p.m. Eastern on the same days. We also will not be having a live You Name It theater on Thursday of this week, as most of our hosts and contributors are expected to be in food comas for the week. You Name It theater will be held at its normal time Tuesday and Saturday of this week, while again being off on Thursday. Our normal schedule is set to resume in the second week of December, and Suck It Phil Mondays will not be impacted by the temporary move. Phil will still be sucking it, just at a later hour and probably with more vigor. Who knows? On a side note, if someone donates $20 or more to our GoFundMe today, we'll promise never to use any lines about Phil sucking and more vigor again in this newscast. With that, we're off for another night. Have a great day.